small penis in your story, so that they can't complain or file suit, or else they have to explain about that small appendage. So do you use people you know in your books, or are they completely fictional characters, for good characters or bad characters?
I'm excited that I have the microphone first for this one. I got like, people can be very mean in reviews sometimes. I literally took a line that somebody put in a review, I put it into a note. I write mafia, right? So they gave it was basically like a death thing, and then I got to shoot him in the throat. So I totally do take little real things from life, and then I get justice. But I don't know anybody in the mafia.
I would just like to say you look really pretty today, and I don't want to die in any of your books. I do the opposite though. Instead of giving somebody a small member, I made someone that we had a really terrible falling out, and I made her the heroine. And it was like a sort of cathartic thing for me. Like it was like a forgiveness kind of thing. I'm saying that because I'm next to the Bibles. But for me, that made a little bit more sense. But I really love the idea of shooting somebody in the throat. I can't do that in a small town romance. Or can I? No. I could make it funny. That's true. Maybe they get, I don't know, shot with something. It's a BB gun in the butt. I may use that, and you still be really, really pretty today.
My so-called Bollywood life, I wrote it as a love letter to my younger self. So it's the person that I always wanted to be, and I think that's as close as I get to kind of putting people in my books. And then the Takeover Effect, which is the first in my adult contemporary series, the heroine is an attorney who's trying to prove herself in this law environment where she's surrounded by men who are just giving her a job to kind of get rid of her, basically. And that's how I felt like for the first 10 years of my work. And then and after that point, once you kind of discover who you are, and you don't need to respond to every little thing that is every little judgment that is thrown your way, like that's the kind of heroine that I wanted to to put on the page. So I have to say parts of myself make it into my books more than parts of other people.
I'm like that. My first book was a 48-year-old disabled woman. I'm disabled. I struggle with certain things, and that was a way to process some of that. In between April of 2017 and 2018, I lost both my parents. So I don't emote very easily here, like in person, but I emote on paper. So when I'm pissed, or when I'm sad, or when I struggle, that comes through in my characters always. And mean people, I have my proofreader who keeps a list, and everybody who's nasty to us goes on the list. And those become villains, or the sucky neighbor, or that's what I do.
All processing.
I don't have a good, interesting answer. These are so much better than mine. I will say I never intentionally put anyone I know, but a lot of times I'll hit like the copy editing or proofreading phase. I'm like, oh, I know where I got that. So I think the muse is way more in touch with my social life than conscious me.
Well, I traveled to Delaware for 2.5 days, and my suitcase was 4 pounds over and my first heroine packs too much everywhere she goes, so that's not a surprise. But there's probably a little bit of me in every heroine I write, and whenever I need someone like a bad guy or a mean ex-wife or something like that, I might message my best friend and said, who's annoying you lately? I need a name, and that's how we do.
I've done one where we had a contest to be a character in one of my books, and they were able to choose naughty or nice. And in medieval times, there aren't a whole lot of choices for naughty. So my winner decided she wanted to be the village harlot. We had fun with that. So thank you. The other thing is, I know we as writers, we observe so much. So sometimes what we put in our stories are things we've observed from people. And I was telling a story about my dental office where a couple, a brand newlywed couple, kind of became over amorous in my chair together while I went to develop x-rays. And I still can't believe it happened, but I was telling this story to a group of authors, and that scene ended up in someone's book. So we may not use it, but it ended up in someone's book, so I thought that was cute. So what is the one thing now, we're all at different experience levels, published levels, whatever. What's the one thing about being an author you wish more people knew, or you wish you knew when you started out? Is there something you've learned along the way?
I think it's a lonely profession. Like, I feel I sort of miss being around people all day working, and I struggle with keeping to a schedule. So I think that's something that I would have tried to tell my earlier self when I was starting this out, is I need to be more diligent about holding myself accountable, because I only answer to me. So.
I think probably, there's a lot of things, but the number one thing that I wish I could go back and tell my early published self is that you're never, ever, ever going to please everyone.
Yes.
And I think it's really easy to think when you sit down, like, oh, if I could just add this element, or that element, or make it sexier or less sexy, or swear or not swear, whatever the heck it is that someone's looking for, that somehow they'll love it. And no matter what you do, there's always going to be someone that doesn't like your books. There's always going to be those negative reviews. You're always going to have the haters. And I think maybe realizing that and acknowledging that there's always going to be that one person or 1,000 people that don't feel what you're doing, it's freeing, just to sort of let it go and be like, well, can't please everyone. I know that's kind of cliche, but
It's true.
Yeah, it is. I completely agree with both of you guys. And I had something, but then I was like, yes. I have learned a ton. Oh, it's not about the launch. I wish somebody had told me from the beginning that even if your book doesn't do well, it doesn't mean that it was a bad book. It doesn't mean you don't know what a good book is anymore. It doesn't mean people are lying to you and it's not really worth it. It's never going to be anything. It's not about the launch. A book can live 1,000 lives, and I wish that I knew that from the beginning, because it would have saved me a lot of tears. That's for sure.
I don't know. I hate to keep saying like I came from a different spot, but you tell people for years and years, don't go to Goodreads. Don't read what people say, because it is, you can't, there's all the people that sit behind a keyboard and they're like, I am going to get her back for whatever. And, that doesn't, to your point, that doesn't mean that, it was a bad book. Maybe it was just not for that person, but there's, a couple hundred other people or a couple thousand other people that really did like it. So you just have to play to your strengths, and really, I just would tell everybody, just stay true to yourself. Don't change because the tide is changing a different way and you think that, this type of book is what's going to sell next. Just write what you want, because otherwise you're going to be super miserable.
So I would say that what I wish someone had told me was that burnout is a real thing, and it's a really dangerous thing. So even if you're a full-time writer, if you work full-time and you write on the side, no matter what, you have to take care of yourself first. And there was a period where it was 3 months before Bollywood Life came out, which launched 2 days after my sister's wedding, and there was just so much going on. I had just sold another series. I was working on that series as well. And I completely crashed in the parking lot at work, and I was out of work for 3 weeks because I had the mother of all panic attacks. And they were worried that I was literally gonna have a heart attack at 33. So that is a real thing. And after that, I took my health, no matter what, if I'm not gonna meet a book deadline, that is okay, because as long as I am healthy, that's all that matters. Yes. So just, if you are a budding writer out there, I am the cautionary tale. Burnout is scary, and you have to just make sure that you, number one is, that's who you take care of first.
Wow. I think I might be heading that way. I sleep about 4.5, 5 hours per night. And I wake up at 4:30. Usually my husband works in landscaping, so he gets up early, and that's my writing time. What I wish I'd known when I started was that it can become so incredibly addictive. And it's not just the writing. The writing itself, I love. I lose myself. I don't feel a thing. For people with chronic pain, this is wonderful. Writing is the best medicine. But there's a whole social media aspect. There's the business aspect. Once I stop writing, it's not done. I have hours and hours and hours more to do to stay on top. So I find myself from 4:30 in the morning until about 11 o'clock at night on the computer, either responding, trying to be interactive. It is a business. There's a lot of hours that go in a book. People sometimes complain about the price of books. Why aren't they all 99 cents? They're not 99 cents because we put hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours in those books. And just like everybody else, we'd like to get paid for them, you know? So that's what I struggle with sometimes.
One of the things I found that was the hardest is learning from others, but also not comparing your path to someone else. I came from a very traditional background, published with Harlequin, published with print publishers, and there's always someone else who has a different deal, a better deal. Now with indie books and self-publishing, people are doing things and you think, oh, I should be doing that and I should be doing that. And when I start to get that panicky thing, I go back to the writing, because that's the one thing that, well, I'm not going to say I can control, because I don't control the writing, but that's the one place that it's me and I'm responsible for that. So it's hard though not to compare with what everybody else is doing. Okay, so